Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to just hang out for another minute or two and give some folks a couple more minutes to join us, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the today's webinar. Give it another minute or so. Somebody found the thumbs up button. Thank you for that. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to today's webinar titled How AI and ERP Intelligence Accelerate Operational Decision Making. The webinar is presented by Infor and SolutionsX and hosted by Metal Forming Magazine. My name is Brad Coogan. I'm the editorial director of Metal Forming at the Precision Metal Forming Association, and I'm pleased to be today's moderator. Before we get started, just a few notes about today's session. The meeting is being recorded for archiving, and the recorded event will be posted to our website within the next few days. We'll let you know via email when that recording is available for viewing online and sharing with others. Also, everybody in the meeting is in listen-only mode. That means that our speakers and other attendees will not be able to hear any audio from your site during the program. However, you can communicate with us throughout the program by submitting any questions and comments you have using the question box, which is located on the right-hand control panel on your Zoom screen. If you don't see that Q&A button, just click on the More button and the Q&A button will appear. So then you'll simply type any questions or comments you have to an organizer as selected from the drop-down menu. You'll also use that same question panel at the end of the session, as well as during the webinar if you have any comments or thoughts or questions you want to pose to the panel. This is meant to be an open discussion with all of you online with us today, so please feel free to ask any questions as they come to you. So now it's time to begin today's webinar. Joining us for this panel discussion on AI and ERP intelligence are Max Fisher, Director of Product Management Development at Infor, and David Trout. David is the CEO of SolutionsX. So Max and David are going to put into context for us the ongoing challenges in manufacturing related to the need to respond faster to disruptions, to respond to customer demands, as well as to operational changes without increasing complexity. So we're going to explore how modern ERP ecosystems, embedded AI, and automation tools help organizations move from reactive firefighting to proactive decision-making across finance, operations, and supply chain. The end game, as always, is to reduce bottlenecks, improve visibility into your processes, and accelerate response times. So David and Max, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Maybe you can start with just a couple brief introductions, and then we'll launch into our conversation.
Max, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, Brad, thank you for having me. I'm Max Fisher. I'm our Director of Product Management for what we call the Velocity Suite at Infor, which is our go forward for any of our AI-related technologies. I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Been working on these projects with customers my entire career, right out of college. So about the past 6 years.
Awesome. And I'm David Trout. Brad, yes, thanks for having us. Thanks for moderating here today. We really appreciate it. I think I messed up and I forgot to ask, how do I get to my phone a friend if there's a question I don't know the answer to? So maybe put that in the thing. But so I'm the CEO of SolutionsX. We are a Infor Gold Channel partner. And we've been working with the innovation suite since its inception quite some time ago, a little bit before Max came to Infor to lead that product to where it is today, which he's done a fantastic job of. So we're thrilled to talk about that today. I've been around the ERP space for 20 plus years, and I'm very excited about how AI is helping people make decisions faster in their organizations. So very pleased to talk about it with us today here.
Excellent. Yeah, I know just from talking to people at trade shows and different conferences that I go to that AI is the hot topic, um, especially when it comes to management software, ERP software. So looking forward to this conversation and hear what you guys have to say about how AI is playing a role in ERP. Um, so, David, to start things off, you've talked about um, operational velocity. It's a term I can't say that I'm completely familiar with. Maybe you can explain to everybody what you mean when you talk about operational velocity, because I think it's important to the context of this conversation today.
Yeah.
So, what is it, and why is it so important for our audience to understand it?
Yeah, it's a fancy way of saying speed, right? People would say we have to go faster. We have to get there before our competitors do, right? So speed used to be the competitive advantage, and now it's just table stakes. So if you want to stay in business, you have to make decisions really quickly. Supply chains don't break, in a year from now, they break, weekly. And customers are expecting answers in hours or even moments, right? When they say when you say to a customer, hold on a second, I'll get back to you for that, they're like, okay, I'll hold right here. And it's like, well, no, I meant like I'll email you later. It's like, well, no, I need the answer now, right? So how fast you're able to go is really important. And it used to be just so that you had the competitive advantage, but now it's to try to keep them from going somewhere else. So the cost of a slow decision isn't just a missed opportunity anymore. So it's worse than that, right? So you don't want your clients dual sourcing because you were a little bit too slow. And so the velocity word in that operational velocity isn't just about moving faster for the sake of speed, right? It's about closing the gap between something happened and, hey, something is going to happen and this is what we did about it or what we're going to do about it. And that's a really important thing to do. So to bring it to like a job shop or an example, a job shop that used to find out about a late vendor when the shipment didn't show up. But nowadays, you look and you see that the PO confirmation said it was going to be a couple days late. And then if you have AI helping you with that and making sure that it's keeping track of when those things that you ordered are going to be there in time, you get to know about it before you actually have the stock outs and stuff. So that's a little bit about what operational velocity is. Essentially, it's just a really fancy way of saying, hey, you got to be fast. You got to make decisions quickly.
So the types of decisions we're talking about, is that quoting? Is it adjusting my shop schedule to fit in an order? What types of decisions are we talking about?
All of that. So quoting for sure, adjusting the schedule. Maybe you run a different product because you don't want the line to go down and that something's not going to be there in time. And then also with the supply chain piece of it, maybe it's just sourcing it somewhere else. When you say, okay, well, you're my main vendor, but I'm going to have to get it somewhere else. And it's like, well, wait a minute, I might be able to get it there. It's like, I don't think you're gonna. Right? And I have data to back that up to tell me why I don't believe you.
Max, is that something that you run into with your customers?
Yeah, actually, that's a lot of those key use cases there. If you look at, just vendor performance and doing some sort of, clustering analysis on, hey, this vendor's performing well, versus my other vendors. And so, I might, hey, I need to diversify, on this product that I bring in, or I need to consolidate on it. If you think about, hey, am I able to fulfill this order or not? Based on those what if scenarios, I have these materials coming in. Can I get these out in time for this order? What are my options to do that? This order comes in on a Tuesday. I need this out by next week. What are those what if scenarios that AI can help with. Hey, I should add in a couple more hours of shifts this weekend, or keep my shop open a little longer, or I can push out and deprioritize other orders. It's those scenario plannings that you're able to get back to that customer, like David was saying, right away, rather than, oh, I've got to go back and have a meeting and then might get to you tomorrow. Every single hour, every single day you wait to get back to a customer, they're probably going somewhere else.
I got you.
So,
Yeah. Okay. And so you guys, I guess, would both say that AI is impacting operational velocity and helping these companies respond more accurately, more quickly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it's not only just to the company's benefit, but I mean end user as well. That's a lot less stress off your back if you're able to get something out the door quickly and more accurate than it is, if you've got oh Lord, it's 4 p.m. on a Thursday. I got to go figure this out before I get out the door. So,
So, so how is the AI performing? I mean, pulling data from different machines or all the different sources of data that you have, but maybe you could put into words how that all happens with AI within the ERP.
yeah.
I'll let you take that one, Max. Yeah, it's
Sweet.
kind of your baby, right?
Yeah. So, with an ERP vendor, right, you're hoping they've got some sort of innovation layer there. From Infor side, our Velocity Suite is our innovation layer, and it's embedded with that ERP. And so all of that data is kind of in that same place with all that business process context. So it knows, hey, what you're trying to do and how that business process works, and it has all that context there. And so having all the data in that one place allows for the outcome to be faster. One, you don't got to go through a lot of replication sets or bringing data to another source and dealing with those latency issues. But as well, you've got everything all in one place and all that context. If you think about any AI model you'd hear in the news, like they have this many parameters and they're using all this data there, right? If you're not doing it, embedded with your ERP, you probably got to replicate it somewhere else, and you get those data sync issues and those sort of things. Having it embedded with the ERP, you know, not only speed, but also accuracy and all the context you would need for it. And then I'd put another one in there too, your end users and actually getting people to adopt it. Are you going to have somebody log into a different system and go learn something new? Or is that pop up right there in that same system they've been using for 10, 20 years? Which one are they going to choose to use? I can hardly get my grandma to change a TV remotes, right? So I know I can barely change from an iPhone. So I know that just
Yeah, right.
any of those changes, as long as you can embed it into everything they're doing today, it's easy.
So what does it look like then for a company that is implementing AI in their ERP for the first time in terms of any changes they need to make to the way their IT is structured or to the sensors and the type of data that they're getting from the shop floor? Uh, what does that look like to actually add AI to my system?
Well, one of the things I'll start with that one a bit. One of the things is to what Max was referring to is find an ERP that actually has it embedded already. That's probably the best possible scenario that you have is to find somebody that has something like Velocity Suite at Infor and the AI tools, the agents, and the access to the data, and even better, Max said it right, but I wanted to kind of put a highlight on it, the context that is needed. It's anytime you take data out of the system that created it, right? It's actual system of record. You take it somewhere else. It's very, very important that you take the context with it. And most of the time, people are missing that step, and so they're getting back some decent answers, depending on what their prompts were, that kind of thing. But without the context, even the best LLMs in the world, they have to infer that context. And so having a system that has AI integrated into it already, that understands everything that you're doing inside of that, what Infor calls it is a cloud suite. And so there's ERP data in there and IoT data and anything that you're using to run your business on a day-to-day. The AI has access directly to that in context, and it's really super important for that.
So when you talk about velocity, speed, there's friction amongst departments, right? That maybe slow you down. We can have all the data, but finance operations, supply chain, everybody needs you need data from every one of those areas, and all those areas need to know what's going on. So how do you eliminate that friction between finance operations and supply chain?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Brad. I think you hit it when you said it's data. It's not the friction between the three groups, right? They've been working together for decades.
Okay.
Friction comes from the fact that there's data. Everybody's working off their own version of the truth, right? And it's updated on their own schedule. Finance is looking at last month's numbers and trying to predict, what it's going to be based on some trending from the years past. But operations is looking at the shop floor in real time, and supply chain, they're probably using some spreadsheet, that somebody created and don't even remember the last time they updated it because their ERP report didn't do what they wanted it to do or something like that. So when it's in one system with the real-time data, then those groups, they stop arguing about, whose numbers are the right numbers, and they actually start solving the problem that's in front of them. So we've actually had that as an example here very recently. We had a late supplier shipment. So for one of our manufacturers, and it used to be that in the old days, it was the supply chain that found out first, right? And then operations found out when they went to go get it. But that's different now. So with this approach that we're talking about with this operational velocity, all three see it the same day at the same time, and the conversation shifts from why didn't we know to what did we do about it?
Okay.
And I'll take a different angle on that one, David. So if you take those different departments, and oh, I've got to have IT budget to do this innovation. So where do I apply AI to these different businesses? And looking at a solution that's embedded with the ERP and what they're already used to using, and that vendor knows that ERP well. When you're thinking about, oh, it might take me 6 months to a year long to get something up and running because they got to bring in a consultant, they've got to do an analysis, they got to understand my application, they got to understand the ERP here and all these APIs. They have to understand that before they build something. If you're going alongside with the ERP, the vendor who has the ERP should probably know how to build things on top of it.
Yeah.
And so, if you're taking hey, we only have this much budget and this much time and this much focus to do AI, we got to focus on only finance, right? That shouldn't be the answer you should accept. It should say, hold on a second, we're in 2026 and this application. These solutions should be there in, 4 to 6 weeks. And so you're able to, share that bandwidth across those groups too.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Very good. All right. I will take a second here to just, we've got a lot of people online. If anybody wants to share their thoughts on these topics, or if they've got a situation in their own company where they've got some operational velocity challenges, let's say, you want to ask these guys a question, please go ahead and do that whenever you feel the urge. So you get the data, you've got the AI looking at the data, giving you some analysis of that much more quickly than you ever could before, and more completely, right? You're getting all the data, not just picking and choosing. So how then is that data turned into actionable insights? What's that actually look like from the person, reviewing the data? Maybe they're on their phones, maybe they're on their laptops, to actually actual actionable insights on the shop floor, or in the scheduling office, what have you.
Yeah, you led there perfectly. So the manufacturers always have enough data. They always have enough data. The ERPs make sure of it, right? There's a ton of it. But
Right.
what they don't have is somebody to take the time to be able to dig through it, and then also to be able to make all of the little connections that need to be made that we might not see on the day to day, but an AI can find relationships between certain data points that we didn't see, like with the human eye. And so the fact that the ERPs are really, really great at reporting what's already happened, it really takes AI to be able to evaluate that data and then make a prediction, find patterns, and see how it can make some suggestions for changes that you might need to be able to stay fast, right? So then the embedded AI is that's the thing, right? It's more than just a buzzword. It's the practical thing that actually makes it work with your data because of that context that we talked about before. So instead of like a planner running the same report every Monday and hoping to catch a problem, they can now see that the moment a pattern shows up, they're given a push notification that says, hey, you got a problem coming, right? So little things like that are hugely impactful when you actually have an AI taking a look at the data and making predictions. So it's a fantastic way to turn that ERP data into actionable insights. I think that was the question you asked, right?
Yep, absolutely.
I'd say, David, I'd add to that on that data that maybe might not be entered in that ERP directly. And so if you're thinking about an AI that could maybe monitor an email box or monitor another system that you have out there, because I mean everyone has multiple systems other than their ERP, right? Getting orders entered in faster. And so stopping that manual process, stopping the manual process of having to enter in an invoice potentially or pick up those PO confirmations that you were talking about earlier. The sooner those are in the system as well, allow those actionable insights to happen quicker. So instead of having to manually enter in those 20 invoices, right, they're already there for you to take action on or to code them correctly. Orders get in, maybe, someone does order entry, leaves work at 5 p.m. on Friday. Well, that AI bot runs 24/7. So you got orders, being entered in all weekend as they come in through email, PO confirmations that might change, how your material comes in. All those things. And if you've got something doing those manual kind of checking tasks too, it allows for the things that are not AI also to perform better. And so it's that piece of it as well.
Yeah, not just the ERP, but the ERP adjacent
Mhm.
things as well. Yeah.
I didn't
Good
know
point.
that the system could monitor your email inbox and take actions based on those emails and attachments within the emails. I didn't know
Sure
that.
can. Yep, sure can.
Think about centralized emails for, payable invoices that come in or orders that
Uh-huh.
come in, uh, anything like that, right? Packing slips, advanced shipping notices. You want to take an action off of that? Oh yeah.
That's incredible. Huh, okay. So how long, off the script a little bit, how long have you had the AI package? And how, how would you say, where we are on the ladder of implementation? Are you at a level 6, 7, 3? Where are we in the metal forming and fabricating world with AI and ERP implementation?
Yeah. So from Infor, we released our first sort of AI ML technology in 2018. So we've been doing it for quite some time now. Started off with a first couple
ML.
ML, ML,
ML.
yeah,
What is ML? Yeah.
machine learning. Sorry,
Yes. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
machine learning. So that's more of, I would say, that technology has been around since the 60s. Data scientists and mathematicians are out there building out these algorithms. And so we had our first platform there in 2018 to be able to, give some simple results, clustering your customers, analyzing, hey, this could be an anomaly, doing some non-statistical forecasting, right? We started that with a couple pilot customers, and we grew that program. I think in 2022 or so, we had about 70 customers, up and running in the solutions. Some were great successes, some were, oh, these are giving okay results. We've really stepped it up probably in the past 4 to 5 years now. Multiple different technologies in our stack out there doing more AI, generative AI based solutions. For that, I think we're almost approaching our 300th customer. We should get the 300th customer here in a couple of weeks. Now, these various stages of implementation going on, I would say, in terms of making them pretty repetitive, it depends on that use case, right? Things like the email box that enters in an invoice into your system, right? That's almost like clockwork. But maybe some of those more complex supply chain, we got to read some scenarios from multiple different sources. That might take a little time.
And then, Max, what about the agentic stuff? So, agentic AI became pretty prominent in the Infor space fairly recently in comparison to the Gen AI stuff. And I'm seeing some really cool stuff that's going on with the agents too. Can you expand on that a little bit for the attendees?
Yeah, so for our Argentic, we launched our first version of it October of last year. And so we've got a little bit of muscle memory going on there. These are agents, and if you think of it, doing that almost like an assistant for you all the time, right? Whether they're doing something on a repetitive nature behind the scenes and surfacing anomalies to you or suggesting what to do, but it also, just like you would interact with a Chat GPT or a Claude or a Gemini, you're able to ask it questions as well. And so if you think about, especially, bringing on new staff, definitely probably like myself, Gen Z staff that's used to an iPhone in my pocket and not an ERP every day. Some of those being able to ask questions and do analysis, via a chat assistant and one of those agents that go and retrieve data for you and bring that information to the surface and give you that summary and, hey, what should you maybe do here is a game changer. And honestly, for my generation, it's almost expected to have it there. So
Yeah, and then the big surprise for me, Brad, with what's going on there is not only will it help you make the decision with the new agentic activity that they have, you can tell it that you've made the decision, and it'll ask it, well, do you want me to go ahead and change that purchase order? You're like, yes, please. And it just changes the PO and sends it out to the vendor. And, it's like, that's just something that us Gen Xers might go, holy cow, it's Skynet. It's Skynet. I'm worried about that, but it's a huge time saver. You really want your supply chain experts inside your organization making the tough decisions. You don't want them doing the tisky-tasky work, right? And so agents nowadays can help us with that, and that is probably one of the biggest inputs to operational velocity action.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to pose this question from our audience that always comes up with AI. I'm sure you guys hear it all the time. So, a company's ERP system contains a lot of proprietary information, right, about the company. So, how is the AI structured so that information can't be shared and accessed outside of the company? What's the security look like there?
yeah. So from Infor's perspective, we host and partner with Amazon Web Services, AWS, where we host all of our applications there, and we leverage those services, and so they do not exit your environment. All of that is hosted with all of your data there, safe and securely, and so it does
Okay.
not have access to the public internet. It is not used for any of those trainings. It is its own instance, for you, the customer. With that as well, when you get down to like data level security too, prime example, I should not be able to go into there and type, hey, what's David's salary? It should say, well, you don't have security access to that data. But I can go in and say, hey, show me Max's salary. And it shows me everything about me because I'm the user. And so, on that security level too, it takes, and everything that we do is user context based. And so I'm the user, and all the security all the data and parts of the ERP that I have access to, the AI is able to return back to me. And so it works on my behalf. If I tell that agent to go do something, it's working on Max Fisher's behalf. And so you're able to have that traceability, responsibility there, and have all those security guardrails that you already have in place. If you've already gone through that ERP implementation, you don't want to go through a second, whole security debacle as well.
Okay. So as long as you're working within Infor, in this case, your
Yeah.
data is secure.
Now, I can't control somebody copy and pasting and going out to Facebook and posting that, but
Right.
everything that you would give your IT team would give allowance to in their browser, for that end user.
Okay. This is another common question I hear too, another one from our audience. For companies that have an older version of their ERP software, whether it's Infor or other, are there softwares with AI capabilities that can be used as an add-on to our ERP?
Yeah. And so, Dave, you want to take that one, or you want me to?
Well, let me give it a shot, and then we'll let the expert tell me how I messed up. Right? I think that it really depends. I hate giving those types of answers, when you're in a webinar, but it really does depend. If you're talking about an old MS-DOS version that you have running on a machine in the back of the metal fab shop versus you've just got an old version of SAP. Those are two completely different answers there as to what it can put in. It also matters really what the end business that you're working into. So as an example, if you're a defense manufacturer, you're going to want to be very, very careful about taking your data and putting it into LLMs, right? There's some really bad rules and some big repercussions about doing that kind of thing. So it really does depend. I would say that you want to try to find some way to be able to make some small improvements utilizing AI. Find something, and Infor actually does have a path, and I'll let Max talk a little bit to that. You can get into the Velocity Suite without being an Infor ERP customer. Max, if you wanted to expand on that a bit.
Yeah, we take it through a hybrid approach, and so that could be a third party, ERP that's not Infor, or something that's on-prem. Being able to have that connection to the cloud. If you think about, well, why don't we just have the AI on-prem? I don't know if you saw the price for hosting your own data centers. It's a little expensive right now. Those GPUs are a little expensive, and it's all that infrastructure you got to have. And so that approach where that on-premise application ERP is able to connect to the cloud, we've got some methods that we call it the enterprise connector, able to bring that data, only the necessary ones that we need to have to come up with some solutions. And then we can either push that back down or have it, as notifications out there. We've got some fun ways to do it, and we're pretty flexible. And so really from our standpoint, if you have an M4 ERP, those solutions might come a little faster because we know those ERPs better. But if you think about another application that might be non-M4, we can get that data into our multi-tenant solutions out there and able to give you those results back. So we keep that open model. From our side, from Infor side, we service multiple different industries. And so we have to have that capability anyways. It's not like we're doing it special for non-Infor customers. We have to have that, inherent to our applications already. So
Gotcha. Okay. So I assume for somebody, the question from the audience is regarding Infor Visual. So I'm assuming you can add the AI to somebody using Infor Visual.
we'll look at those versions. Hey, are they compatible to connect to our cloud? They might have to do some upgrading to a later version.
Okay.
But it's the answer is no. If you're on-prem, it's hey, we'll work with you to get there.
Got it. Yeah, in terms of pricing, people always ask about that. So we're going to share David and Max's email address at the end of this. If you want to talk to them about pricing, I'd encourage everybody to go ahead and send them an email. So let's get back on script. Max, we touched on some examples of decision making, proactive, right? That's what we're going to talk about instead of reactive decision making. Can you share any other examples where AI is helping companies be more proactive in their decision making in their manufacturing environment?
Yeah. So when we think about proactive, right? Hey, let's make a decision prior to something hitting the fan. And so, the easiest one, I think the main one there people would look to would be forecasting, which, financial forecasting or forecasting, hey, for our purchase orders, we're going to get this much material in, and so we can have this capacity. Right there, traditional statistical form forecasting, works pretty well today, right? That might not be the use case that you want to bring to someone who's been doing your forecasting for 30 years, right? It is probably the easiest one to go to when you're thinking about, hey, what can AI do proactively? But you think about, hey, from those forecasts, what do you do? Can you, use that forecast that's already there today or the historical information to then action something in your system? And so I mentioned earlier some of those what if scenarios, like, hey, this order comes in, instead of me having to go and call a meeting and see if we can shift these 3 orders down so we can fit this one in, or look at my planning and say, hey, I've got to have this much capacity to, I can create those on the fly dynamically. Hey, what if this order comes in on a Tuesday for 1,000 parts, right? How do I fit this in? And you're able to get those different scenarios. And so you're able to be, I would say, that's more of a reactive to an order coming in, but it's more of proactively getting back to that customer and doing that planning rather than just saying yes. If you think about another one, if you're heavy in warehousing as well, using AI based on order and demands that come in, hey, how can I, reorganize my warehouse to have the items that are picked most frequently right now for the demand for the customers co-located, and so now my picking's faster. If you're moving thousands and thousands of parts, you want to have that, hey, I recommend you move part A and part B next to each other. Don't have them the entire way across the warehouse. Those little things there. AI to help in those proactive decisions as well. I mentioned earlier, David, that PO confirmation use case, those confirmations come in via email, right? If you're not seeing that until the next day, you're delayed in that decision making. You really are reactive. If that AI bot monitors that mailbox, brings it into your ERP, and so you can proactively say, "Oh, wait a second. Before I realize that this shipment's not going to come in, I can either, open up a new PO with a new vendor to bring in those supplies, or go ahead and communicate to my customer proactively that, hey, we might be 2 weeks late on this because of XYZ." Pretty, a lot of areas it can go that you can be proactive with these customers. I would say maybe some avoiding reactiveness would be another good area for some of these agents too.
David, anything you want to add to that?
If I Max did a great job, but I think I would just say, we learned something a few years ago about the global supply chain and how it's a bit fragile. And so if you're actually utilizing AI instead of your statistical models for forecasting, as an example, AI can understand what a 2 week delay in a shipment that comes from the other side of the world is going to do to what you have going on. Where it would take that fantastic forecaster, right? The guy who's very proud of the guy or gal who are very proud of the fact that they're very good at forecasting what they need, but it would take them to sit down and say, "Oh, okay, wait a minute. Now they're going to have to get out pen to paper and say, well, what if this is 2 weeks? What if that is 2 weeks?" Or make some kind of change in whatever systems they may have to try to see what the impact of that's going to be. AI will do it at the click of a button.
Yeah. Excellent. So, a lot of good practical applications shared there, Max and David. Companies that are new to AI in their ERP systems, how quickly have you seen them get some of those results? Is it almost immediate? Does it take a little while to learn how to use the AI? What's the learning curve look like?
You, Max, or me?
I would say, I know I hate the answer, but it does depend on the use case, right? If it's something that is more of a slow moving, hey, hey, we should consolidate your suppliers because, historically seeing you are very broad in your suppliers, and so we recommend you might trim some of those down, to lower that risk there. That might be, hey, it might take a couple months for that. But if you're thinking about an AI that, monitors your mailbox or gives you maybe anomaly detection for some of your, trend analysis that you've got on your shop floor, that could be, the next day. For these things, when we talk about implementation, we're seeing as fast as 3-4 weeks, depending on the use case, all the way out to, it could take you 6 to 12 based on, again, what that use case is. And so these are not, it's more to say these are not ERP implementations. They're not, 3 year, 2 years, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. They're much shorter. And then, some of them can be operational, so it can be that next day value. And some of them can be hey, all we need is this forecast once a month, and so we can action on it, right? It's flexible to meet that business need. David?
Yeah, some of it depends too, Max, on the data that you're wanting the AI to interact with. And I think about a use case that says, for anybody that has manufacturing standards, right? They want to update their routings to make sure that their planning engines can work most effectively by saying, "Hey, I know exactly how long it takes for this thing to move from the press brake to the shear to the, you name it." And we can have AI take a look at that data and make suggestions to say, okay, wait a minute, where there's some outliers, where we have some variances, machine downtime or something like that we shouldn't change the standard, if you will. But otherwise, we're looking at, how we've been running that part through the route, for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and then making some kind of suggestion to say, okay, yeah, your standards are a bit off here, that kind of thing. So depending on what data we want the AI, the use case to help us with. It's going to take a little bit of time to see that
Sure.
for you as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me go back to questions from our attendees. How are you actively using a company's ERP information to train the models, to train the AI models? And again, how does security play into that?
And so from an Infor side, all of it's in your same tenant. It's all in your same environment. So security wise, uh, depending on the model you would like to use. So let's say you want to do some sort of forecasting, right? We would go in and pick those parameters. Hey, these are the exact fields that we want to use to train this model. And then we would go and train it, based on the use case's frequency. And so if it needs to be trained every 15 minutes, yeah, every hour, every month, we do those different trainings out there. We usually try to stay on most use cases only really need about 12 months of data. Maybe some of those longer, hey, we want to see seasonality in a business, you might need, a couple more years of data there. But for most use cases, I would say that rolling 12 months is pretty good there. When you talk about a large language model and hey, an agent needs the context of that business, right? It uses API calls back to the ERP to get that information. And so if it needs to know if you're asking about a customer order, right? It's got to know, okay, is there a PO involved with that we're bringing in supplies for? Okay, what are those job numbers there? What's the status there? It's able to get that context around that information coming in. In terms of training those LLMs, we do not do any training of those LLMs on your data. We get those models and they're hosted in your tenant, via the same frontier models everyone uses. And so AWS allows us to use Bedrock, which hosts all the Claude Sonnet models, and any of the OpenAI models, as well as the Meta models out there. We do a lot of the work on the back end to say, hey, Claude Sonnet 4.6 does the best at this use case. And so we take that out. But those models are trained on data outside of your tenant, and we bring them in and we leverage them.
Okay, good. So in your experience then with customers using AI in their ERP, how accurate is the AI? What have you seen with some of your customers in terms of accuracy, and what kind of monitoring should they be doing when they implement the AI to make sure they're getting accurate feedback?
Yeah. So accuracy always depends on the use case, right? If you need to be very, very pinpoint accurate out there, our approach is human in the loop. And so especially it helps with adoption as well. If an AI is going to make any sort of assumption, it's going to do anything on your behalf, having that human come in and check that, as well as giving that logic and that all the information of how did you come to this? All the APIs you called, all the information that you have from the ERP, how it came from this logic, and that human makes that decision. That's one way of that. Hey, no matter what, depending on that use case, because we get some that think that hey, AI is going to post to your GL automatically all your finances, and then you're gonna have to go reconcile that, and you have no idea what happened, right? That's not it's not Skynet taking over yet. Uh,
Not yet.
so we get the human loop actions before some of these pieces. But if it's something where, hey, we're taking an invoice from an email and we are scanning all that information off of that PDF, entering it in the system, those matching rules that you have, based on the goods being received, based on it matching the purchase order, right? AI doesn't really need to make any crazy decisions there. Those are already rules that are in the ERP that already match that will give you those exceptions. And so maybe for that one, we would let that one automate because it's already being caught by other, more deterministic rules. So I hate to always go back to it, but it does depend on that use case there. And we're flexible with these needs as they come up.
Yeah, that makes sense though, Max, right? If you're just asking the Gen AI agent, what's the price of line 4 on, customer order number 125, I would say we're 100%, right? It's going to come back with the exact correct answer. But if you're asking it to, as in your example, go figure out 6 different things utilizing APIs and make some kind of decision, you probably want to have somebody looking at it for sure. There's also behind the scenes, what users don't get to see a lot of times is when programmers invoke the AI engines, the LLMs, and all of that, they're actually scoring the response that's back, right? So there's a confidence response that's behind the scenes that you don't get to see most of the time. And so what happens, and why Anthropic took over and became, not an Anthropic commercial, right? But, and I'm not getting paid by them, but I could be if anybody's listening. But anyway, how Anthropic kind of took over there a little bit ago was because they would self-evaluate what Anthropic was putting out, whatever the model was putting out, and it would say, "Wait a minute, let me run that again," and take a look at it until it became confident enough that it could give you the outcome. The other models have caught up to that now, but they were the first to do it, but at least on my space, from what I could see. And that happens in the Infor system as well. There's confidence about what the AI is going to be putting out to you, and it won't put it out there if it's not fairly confident. But to Max's point, there are important things that need to be looked at by a human.
Sure, makes sense. So I guess to follow on that then, Max, I'm sure you have customers that scale quickly, some scale a little bit more slowly and carefully, and maybe things can get over complicated. I think if you try to scale too quickly, if I can say that. So what are some best practices you see or recommend to companies when they're looking to scale their automation without overcomplicating their processes?
Yeah. I'd say there's a couple of facets to that answer. If you're looking at from an infrastructure standpoint, picking an ERP vendor, likely multi-tenant, if not one that, can handle high volumes. If you're looking from hey, how do we do from AI? How do we scale that to have multiple use cases? Doing it at some sort of platform level. So all the use cases that I have mentioned, whether it's finance related, warehousing related, manufacturing related, even HR related, they're all run through the same platform. And so if you think about, learning all that IT infrastructure, all the security behind it, having one platform, you're able to scale to multiple use cases. When you're looking to roll out and actually get adoption at scale and usage at scale, a lot, some customers have thought it's just a light switch, hey, it's either off or it's on. And that's really not the case. It's slow rolling to, some key users out there that can, test through it a little bit, run it in production, maybe for a week or two, see those results, get that confidence. You do some trainer trains a trainer, and roll that out from there. And so you start with one group, and then you have a plan to roll out and roll out and roll out to more and more and more. For customers that have operations and facilities all over the country, all over the world, we like to roll out, hey, a facility at a time, and then once they get, comfortable, they roll out to more and more. And so we're talking about scale, a couple facets to it. Pick your good IT partner out there. You're able to actually build more than one use case on it, so not just a pinpoint solution. Then working at how do you roll this out to your customers? How do you roll it out to your end users? And that's picking a small group and growing from there.
Sure.
Yeah, organizational change management is still very applicable anytime you're changing something, right? Who moved my cheese, right? You're moving cheese. And in this case, you're actually moving cheese to something that some people in my generation are not very comfortable with, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be really cognizant of that and make sure that you're doing a good job of change management inside.
Yeah. And you want to keep momentum going too, right? So try to find the early wins, right? And keep that momentum.
If you're able to implement something and get it done in 4 to 6 weeks, I've not seen that as an issue for that scale for rollout. They want to go for that next one. Now, if that first project takes 2-3 years, and it's a lot of science, it's kind of like, what are they doing over there again? Oh, those data science guys. So it's more of picking those use cases that you can get involvement on, those small wins, and then keep building on top of that.
Actually, Max, too, we find that people who have implemented some solutions are thirsty to do more, right? It's like that. Once you take your finger out of the dike, it's the water starts to come and the dam just opens up. People start to actually realize the benefits that come from implementing these use cases, and they start thinking about it in a way more quickly than they had before, and saying, "Oh my gosh, I can see the benefit of that. What's the next thing I can do?" And that does happen. To Max's point, do 4, 5, 6 weeks. That's awesome, and then people are just going to want to roll with it. If it takes too long,
Sure.
they won't be that excited yet.
Yep.
You
Good.
start to think about, hey, how can I use AI here? Not how can I add an extra Saturday morning for me to go through this, or add some extra headcount, or what can this intern do this summer for me? You start thinking a little bit differently about how you can solution for some problems.
Excellent. All right. So another question from our audience. This is another good one. So thank you for keeping them coming, because they're really good questions. So, what do you consider the best first use case for AI? This is a smaller manufacturer who says they're trying to move from firefighting to proactive planning, which I'm sure you guys see that all the time. So, which is the best first AI use case? Capacity constraints, material shortages, or orders at risk of being late? They're going to say all three, but
Yeah, I was going to say all three. I would say which hurts the most. Which one hurts your business the most? That's the one that you going to want to concentrate on. You don't want to necessarily do the one that's easiest, or quickest to implement necessarily. You really want to solve the biggest problem, the one that hurts the most. I think would be how I would go about it. If you were agnostic, had you not thrown that stuff out there and say, of all the use cases I have seen with any type of AI automation happening out there, I think some of the easy stuff that we mentioned a little bit ago that doesn't take any decision making, right? It's let your customers send their orders to orders@acme.com, and then just automatically have those put into the system for somebody to review instead of somebody hand keying them. It's good stuff. Invoices from your vendors, and the automated, just send them to an inbox and let them auto match. And if they match, then put them in, vouchers to be paid, that kind of stuff. Just kind of getting rid of the tasky things. But since you qualified those three things, I would say, which one hurts the most, which one is damaging, which one's making you slower to get your product to market or costing you the most money. I would go after that one first.
okay. I have a question. If you want to follow up, please feel free. So David, for a manufacturer that's running mostly manual processes between departments, and we probably have some folks online with us that are in that boat. What's the realistic starting point? Do they need a full ERP overhaul? Are there some smaller victories that they can look for?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, as an ERP, reseller and implementation company, I'd love to give you the answer that says, "Oh yeah, if you're not running this, you need to come give me a call." But that's not true. So nobody actually needs a full overhaul to start. And honestly, jumping straight to a rip and replace like that is how it's just not going to go well. So I think I would start by finding the one handoff that hurts the most, kind of like we just talked about. Every manufacturer running manual processes in between departments has at least one spot where the wheels come off. So figure out what that is and fix that first. Full ERP overhauls, they can be the right move when the core system doesn't work right, but it's not necessarily the right move to just say, "Hey, I want to implement AI. I should rip my ERP out and put in a new one." I wouldn't do that.
So Max, for customers that are still not sure about AI, and maybe their controller, that they're already pasting spreadsheets into chat, or their estimator, has their own AI subscription. What do you say to those folks who question whether they need AI inside their ERP system?
Yeah. So, question why you would need AI. I think it's a little bit different. Hey, where are some problems in the business that we can use AI to solve? And so we do something from our velocity side called process mining, which, on top of all of our ERPs, they publish every single time I enter in a customer order, every single time I change a customer order line, any of those details, we store that with a timestamp. And then we can show you, hey, this is the business process. And so, maybe we're so anti-AI, that's okay. But if I'm able to show, hey, your procure to pay, cycle is 30 days past everyone else in your industry. Let's dive deeper into why that is. Maybe for example, your payment to your vendors is super slow. Maybe your receiving is slow. Maybe from PO to actually getting it confirmed and then receiving goods is slow. You can look into those every single step you're doing in that business process to look at those problems. It might be some configuration in the ERP that might be you change one configuration. It could be a regular, script there. But also it could be, hey, we've got some agents here that can help you out really quickly. And so I don't think anybody would say no, we don't need AI. I just think, hey, I think we're doing things okay right now. But if you're able to
Okay.
show, hey, this is where we see where we can have business improvement, and this is the place we can target, it's one of those tools that you can use to be able to say, hey, you might want to look at this to automate this piece. I don't think anybody's sitting here saying if we were able to identify that, again, that simple example that David talked about, the manually entering in invoices. It's 2026. If that could save you, 40 hours a week on that manual entry of those invoices, I don't think anybody's going to shake their head and say, no, we don't need AI. So
Yeah.
it's more about, hey, where are the biggest problems there? And it's one of those tool sets we can use to solve it.
Good. Good answer. Thank you. Question from attendees. Do the AI agents live with the ERP for forever, or is that something that can be shut off, I guess, or relieved if needed?
And so we're able to turn them off and on and give access pretty freely. That's part of our security and governance. And so you're able to roll them out to some users, some other users. You're able to, turn them off, turn them on as you would need. I would see maybe in a future state some advancements in the technology as well. It might be something where that user interface is completely different and it's all agents. But our path forward is allowing those users to have that option. Some
Okay.
things some things need to be deterministic. They don't need to be with an agent. And some things I would say, yeah, this is a big benefit for you.
Agreed.
Excellent. So we're getting close to the end here. If anybody else has any other questions, we do have a few more minutes though. What can you say? I'll throw this at Max, but David weigh into the difference between metal fabricator, metal forming company customers that get value from their new implementation, within a few months to the ones that still takes a year or two or 3 years. What's the difference in companies that get that quicker, more meaningful implementation?
So from what I've seen, a lot of it's mindset, having an open mind to test some of these things and having that change management process there. So having those key users that start and actually roll it out. If you're sitting in, your test environments, your dev environments for 6 months, that project probably will take, a year or 2 years to find that value. So I would say that's the first piece. That second one, choice of use case, right? If you're thinking, hey, I'm going to build a use case out there that's going to guess the next, what is it?
Super Bowl winner.
The next Super Bowl,
Yeah.
right? You're only going to get Super Bowl winner once a year. And so that use case might not give value for that first year.
Okay.
If you pick something that's more operational and it could be data decision making, within a couple days, a couple weeks, right? You'll get that value quicker as well.
Okay.
Like David said, a lot of this is the operational velocity and how you can service your customers faster and be faster every single day to day. And so picking those use cases, you'll get that value faster. David, anything you want to add there?
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah, exactly right. I think that you nailed it when you said, you have to have an open mind. If you the ones that are going to get those quick wins and have a great experience with their first use case are the ones that are embracing it. The ones that push back and the ones that don't. I don't have time to mess with that right now. It's in testing for too long. Those types of approaches are not going to give you the result you're looking for.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, good. I think we're at a good point now, unless anybody has any last minute questions. You guys have provided provided us with a handful of resources if people want more information. So there you can scan those QR codes. while we're wrapping things up. I don't know if we've got any last second questions from our attendees. So unless Max and David have any closing comments, I think we did a nice job of wrapping things up there. Do you guys have anything more you wanna add?
Yeah, Brad, I would just say again, thank you very much to you and the group for hosting the webinar for us, and being a fantastic moderator. And if you want to continue the conversation, you're going to see some email addresses here in a minute. But Max and I and the team, and maybe not individually, but we'll be at IMTS, we'll be at Velocity Week, and then FabTech this year also. So look us up at the booths, and we'll continue the conversation with you there, Max.
Perfect. Just word of advice that I've seen for some customers, it's just getting started and actually getting in and trying something. I've seen a lot of failure projects, and those customers and those projects actually turn into successes over time. Just it's more about starting and getting your hands dirty than it is sitting and having the exact perfect pinpoint thing that's going to make my company different in 2029, right? It's, hey, what can I do better for August 27th?
Great point.
Excellent. All right. And there you have contact information for Max and David. So go ahead and jot down their email addresses. So guys, thank you so much for your time and really excellent conversation. I hope everybody got a lot out of it. To our audience, yes, thank you for attending the program. We do hope you found it to be valuable. Again, as I noted earlier, an archive of the event will be available soon on our website. When it's up, you'll get an email from us with a link that you can then take another look at what you learned today and perhaps share it with others at your organizations. So Max and David, thank you once again to Infor and SolutionsX. Thanks for joining us today. You can close your browsers now. Everybody have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.